Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, officers and members. Welcome to this meeting of the Police and Crime Panel. This meeting is being broadcast live to you, via the public YouTube, and will be available for viewing on YouTube after the meeting. Please turn your microphone on when speaking and turn it off when you have finished. The fire alarm test is not scheduled for today, so if the alarm does sound, please exit the room, turn right, go through the double doors and follow the stairs down to a fire exit which leads out onto the quadrangle. I received apologies from Councillor Dave, Councillor Adatia, Councillor Mullaney and Salma Manzur as independent. We have Councillor Bray here today substituting for Councillor Mullaney. So we move straight on to the agenda. So agenda item 1 is public question time. I have received no questions from the public. Agenda item 2 is urgent items. I have received no urgent items. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. Do any members have any interest they wish to declare? None, thank you, members. And then question 4, questions for the Police and Crime Commissioner relating to recent change in political affiliation. Statement. On the 2nd of May 2024, Mr. Rupert Matthews was elected Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland as a member of the Conservative Party. On the 4th of August 2025, Mr. Matthews announced that he had joined Reform UK. The Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland Police and Crime Panel has invited Mr. Matthews to this meeting in order to answer questions relating to this decision, as it appears necessary in order for the panel to carry out its functions. Mr. Matthews, do you have any statement that you wish to make?
Thank you, Chair. I was not informed that I would be making a statement, so no, I haven't written one. I mean, the facts are in the agenda and it says the panel will be asking me questions. I sort of assumed that's what would happen. I haven't come with a prepared statement, no.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Okay, so we're going to open the questions to the panel. Sorry, Mr. Bray. Immediately. Mr. Bray.
Yes, thank you. I'd thank you, Rupert, for coming and answering questions this afternoon. In January 22, Nigel Farage tweeted, "Christian Wakeford defects as an MP from Tory to Labour. If he calls a by-election, then that's fine. If not, he is the dishonourable member for Bury South. Are you going to be the dishonourable Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicestershire?"
Mr. Matthews.
No, Chair.
Okay. So members have been given options to field a set of questions for you, Mr. Matthews. So I'm going to start off with Mr. Harrison as question 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. What prompted your decision to change political allegiance?
Thank you, Chair. I think I really got fed up with the inaction of the Conservative Party at a national level, as you would imagine. I have a lot of contacts with the Shadow Home Secretary and other members of the Shadow ministerial team. I got very frustrated by the lack of movement on their part. I thought that the Reform Party were more sort of moving in the right direction, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose inaction on the part of the Conservative Shadow ministerial team, I think it's probably at root of what was going on.
So, Mr. Matthews, Mr. Harrison, your microphone. Thank you. I'm going to ask a supplementary straight away on that point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your term of office as the Police and Crime Commissioner will cease before the likely next general election. And at this moment in time, Reform UK are not in power. So what would you hope to achieve by changing allegiance to a party that's got, I believe, 5 members of Parliament?
A little more freedom of action on my part, I suppose. You're quite right, of course, Reform are not a big force in the House of Commons, but they have been setting the news agenda over the past few months, and I believe they will continue to set the news agenda. And I find myself more I think I'm probably getting a little more support from them than I was from the National Conservative Party. Thank you.
Mr. Bray.
Yeah, I'm just slightly intrigued by your first answer there, Mr. Matthews. You say that you about the Shadow Home Secretary. The Shadow Home Secretary was the policing minister when you were elected, and you stood on a manifesto on that day when he was a minister in the government supporting that government. So what's changed?
There's been a general election which has significantly changed the political landscape of this country. There has been a great growth in support for the Reform Party and collapse in support for the Conservative Party. I was hoping that the National Conservative Party might react to that in a more positive and dynamic way than has been the case. But the short answer to Councillor Bray's question is there was a general election.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Councillor Woodworth.
Thank you, Chair. So you mentioned that you're moving or changing allegiance due to now having more freedom of action. Is this to say that you were constrained politically previously? And if you've already put out a manifesto of what you intend to do, how can you do anything differently now?
Thank you, Chair. Was I constrained? No, I suppose, strictly speaking, I wasn't. Was I getting encouragement, help and support? No, that wasn't happening either. But the councillor has put his finger on a very important point, which is the manifesto on which I stood. And that, of course, was in due course converted into the police and crime plan, which was approved by this panel. And it is my job to implement that police and crime plan, to hold the Chief Constable to account for the work he's doing, also the various services that we commission, be it victim support or crime prevention. And of course, the job of this panel to scrutinise the way in which I do that. So it is the police and crime plan, which is a foundational document, and that is not changing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Lloyd.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good to see you. On the same question previously, you suggested the movement by the Tories is not going in the direction that you want it to go. It's strange that this is your second term as the PCC under a Conservative banner. Are you saying that right from the very start that you were never supported by the Conservative Party because they were in control, and that you say that there's growth with reform, which you can't argue with that? You not then feel it's an opportunity for you? It's called self-preservation, thinking that the Conservative Party has been said to be going down, down and down, but you've decided to jump ship because your chances of being re-elected are far greater under reform than they are under the Conservative.
So if I may just interject, Mr. Matthews, thank you, Mr. Lloydell. I will allow the question and I will allow the answer, but can I remind members this is about the Police and Crime Commissioner and the delivery of the plan. And I would like members to keep that very front and centre. Thank you. But Mr. Matthews.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's not so much the Conservative Party since the general election wasn't going in the direction I wanted it to go. I didn't think it was going in any direction at all. They were just marking time and waiting for something to happen. As for any future electoral prospects, I'm sure everyone here is aware that with the local government reorganisation, the position of Police and Crime Commissioner is very likely to be abolished and the powers rolled into that of a strategic mayor. And so there isn't likely to be a PCC election for me to stand in under whatever banner it might be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I'll leave members to interpret that as they wish. Councillor Cook-Kelvin, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just following on with that theme. I mean, you described how you didn't feel supported by your Tory colleagues when you were in the party. Were there any other sort of specific events or particular policies? I mean, you talk about the inaction or lack of movement, but what is it that you are seeing in reform that you weren't getting from your Tory colleagues?
I think a bit of dynamism, Chair.
So can I throw the supplementary then, Mr. Matthews, because this is all about your delivery of the police and crime plan, your plan. How does, I think I'm still slightly confused, as I'm sure many of my colleagues are, as to why changing your political allegiance when you were elected under a Conservative banner twice, changing to Reform with 5 members of Parliament is going to have an immaterial impact or effect on your police and crime plan, which you're responsible for delivering.
Thank you, Chair. Well, as I've said in different fora on different occasions, the change of my political allegiance really, I don't think is going to affect the day job very much at all. The police and crime plan remains the police and crime plan. That is what I am committed to implementing. So change of political party doesn't really affect that at all. And as you will know from your experience of local government, it's how you behave in office and how you implement your own plan and how you go about choosing to do that, which really impacts on local outcomes. So no, I don't think my change of national political party is going to have a great impact on the plan or the work that I do during the day job at all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Councillor Wise.
Thank you, Chair. I'm interested in the idea that it was the lack of support that led you to this change. You were voted in on a particular manifesto, which will have been coloured by your Conservative values. That led to the police and crime plan, which will have been drawn up with those Conservative values in mind. And yet you're now telling us that those values have changed. Therefore, how does your swapping of party allegiance fit with the fact you were voted on particular things to put a particular police and crime plan in place?
I don't think I am saying that my values have changed at all, Chair. I think moving from one right of centre party to another right of centre party, it's not terribly unusual. Lots of members of Parliament have done it. I think if I had suddenly announced I was joining the Communist Party, I think one would have to think that my personal values had changed, but I don't think my personal values have changed at all, and certainly the police and crime plan hasn't changed. The way in which I intend to go about implementing it hasn't changed. I'm not expecting that to change at all. So no, I don't think my values have changed. If anything, it's the Conservative Party that has changed and has sort of become a bit like rabbit in the headlights, I suppose. They took an absolute hammering at the last general election, and I don't seem to be doing anything about trying to pull themselves together. If my values are important here at all, it is because generally I think that Conservative values are the right way forward for this country. They offer the best future for this country. And it's a matter of which political party do I belong to that I think is best placed to deliver on the values and policies. I mean, not the Reform's officially got policies at all, so the manifesto's run out. But I don't think my values have changed at all. Like I say, it's not as if I've suddenly joined the Communist Party.
Okay, Liz.
That's good. Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, it's not about your personal journey or lack of it. You know, I'm siding with Mr. Bray here. It's about whether or not the public gave you a mandate. You're claiming legitimacy for the voters that you choose to represent, and that your vision is more important. Are you saying that the voters' mandate belongs to you personally, rather than to either party?
Thank you, Chair. I believe the constitutional position in this country is that it's the person who is elected, not the political party. And I know that is not the case in other countries, but I believe in this country that is correct. My own view is that it is the manifesto put in front of the public, which is important. Every leaflet that I produced at the last general election had a QR code to go to the manifesto. Every social media post had a link to go to the manifesto. So manifesto on which I stood was very widely publicised. It was very much my manifesto. Did not include anything sent to me by the National Conservative Party at all. It was a bespoke manifesto for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. In my opinion, the manifesto on which you stand is a politician's contract with the public. And once elected, they are morally obliged to implement that manifesto. That manifesto was rewritten to be the police and crime plan, obviously taking into account differences of language necessary for a different audience. It's been approved by this panel. That's what I'm going to introduce. So I think, strictly speaking, the law in this country is that, yes, the mandate belongs to the person, not to the political party. And I hold personally that it is the manifesto which is important. And as long as the person elected is continuing to implement the manifesto on which they stood, they are fulfilling their contract with the public.
There's
Thank you, Chair. So, as I understand it, the Conservative Party focused on modernising policing with an emphasis on community engagement and crime prevention. But Reform seems to advocate for a stringent, enforcement-heavy strategy to deter and address crime. Are you changing from one to the other?
Thank you, Chair. As regards my job as Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, it is the commitment to the Police and Crime Plan, which is the foundational document. That has not changed. I think when I was a member of the Conservative Party, the Conservative National Party could say things. They might disagree with my plan. That they had no force here at all. It was the Police and Crime Plan as approved by this panel, which is the foundational document which is being implemented. The same applies now that I am a member of Reform. It is the plan which counts. Other members of Reform can say what they like. Their words have no force here. They are not the Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. I am, and it's my plan. So it's their words have no force here.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Thank you, Liz. I have to say, Mr. Matthews, that kind of contradicts what you said earlier about the reasons for changing party, as in lack of support from the Conservatives. And now you're saying and re-emphasising it's your plan and it's nothing to do with anybody nationally. So I think you've got a bit of a conflict there with one statement and then the next statement. However, moving on. Mr. Where are we? Councillor Butcher.
Thank you. Do you anticipate any shifts in commitments, priorities, resource allocations and community engagement strategies?
Not a result of my changing parties, no. As with all the councillors around this table, of course, we wait to see what settlement might come from the central government in terms of financial support for the coming year. And of course, it's always possible that the central government may issue instructions which will impact on the work that I and my office do. I suppose one recent example would be to do with the XL bully dogs, where central government introduced new legislation which has involved my budget in considerable expense. I think certainly over £100,000, possibly over £200,000. But the central government has not given any money towards that. So we're always in the hands of central government, but I'm not anticipating any changes as a result of my changing political party, no.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So the next question falls to myself. Within your police and crime plan, you commit to working towards increased environmental sustainability of the police estate. And I quote, "I will ensure that Leicestershire Police has an estate that is fit for purpose now and into the future. I will ensure that we are working towards increased environmental sustainability and that we increase opportunities for public engagement." You are aligned with a party that does not agree with net zero. I am very familiar with a recent statement from a member of Reform saying net stupid zero. I find it quite astonishing that you're aligning with a party that is completely contrary to your commitment within your police and crime plan. So are you still committed to delivering the sustainability that we've long talked about within this panel, or are you going to change your plan to align with your new national leadership?
Thank you, Chair. As I've already said, the words of other members of Reform have no force here at all. I'm the Police and Crime Commissioner. This is the Police and Crime Plan. Just as I would imagine other members of the Labour Party or Conservative Party from other parts of the country might say things with which people around this table would disagree, and words from elsewhere don't have any force there. Words from elsewhere have no force. I'm the Police and Crime Commissioner. I hold the job. I'm responsible, and the plan is the plan that I'm putting forwards. For your interest, Chair, we are about to embark on a review of the estate strategy because the time has come for us to do that. Certainly, sustainability will play a role in that. So will police visibility. So will public access. So will a whole range of other things, which might include the cost to the police force of various buildings and other aspects of the estate. So it's going to be quite a wide-ranging review. Will probably take quite some time to deal with. But obviously, yes, sustainability will be a part of that review, as is stated in the plan.
So is that still a commitment to decarbonise the police estate, Mr. Matthews?
I don't think I've ever given a commitment to net zero. I've given a commitment to sustainability. I've given a commitment to reduce costs. And of course, energy insulation and energy savings will play a part in that. Unless somebody here knows different, I don't think I've ever given a commitment to net zero. Of course, all public bodies are obliged by central government to have a sustainability strategy, which we're also working on, though again, that would take a little bit of time to grind its way through the system. So am I committed to sustainability? Yes. Am I committed to net zero, irrespective of its impact on other parts of my responsibility, such as police visibility, police effectiveness, and so on? No, I'm not.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. And Mr. Lloyd will forgive me, you did have your hand up earlier. Did you still wish a question to? Okay, thank you, Mr. Lloyd. Mr. Bray.
Yes, thank you. Coming back to your previous comment about reviewing the estate, will you be doing this yourself, or will you be bringing in the Reform Doge team?
Thank you, Chair. My office will be working on it, so will the Chief Constable's office. I have not invited the Reform National Party to play any role in it. I'm not intending to either.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hayward.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just going to paraphrase your thoughts here. I'm just trying to assume that you're not aligned politically because you just said that Reform have no impact on your policies and procedures. The Tories were a loss to you. So why did you not align yourself to your independence as an independent police crime commissioner, as opposed to being linked to a party of Reform that you're saying has got nothing to do with me whatsoever in terms of my planning? So my question is, why did you not remain as an independent? And secondly, is this some kind of a long-term plan for you to be with Reform for the future? So is your commitment to the Police Crime Commissioner's position complete, or is there another plan in place?
Okay, Mr. Hayward, this is about the delivery of the police and crime plan. And I allow the question. It's up to Mr. Matthews whether he wishes to answer.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I think I'm going to have to do what a lot of people in public life do, which is to try and draw a distinction between myself when I'm doing the job and myself when I'm not doing the job. So when I'm doing the job of Police and Crime Commissioner, I'm doing the day job, I'm implementing the plan, and so on and so forth, and the noises off are just that. They're noises off. They're not relevant to what I'm doing. I'm continuing to implement the plan that we've got, that you have all approved. When it comes to me, when I'm not doing the job, where I choose to spend my weekends, whether I'm delivering leaflets or watching a film or whatever, clearly some of that spare time will be spent with the Reform Party doing Reform Party things. but that's not the day job. And it's the day job that we're all here to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. My personal view, and I've never heard anything different, is I'm an elected councillor and it doesn't come with a 9 till 5. I'm an elected councillor 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. However, that's your opinion and I have my opinion. So, Mr. Woodman.
Thank you, Chair. It's not so much a question, it's just a clarification. I'm just reading a story from the 21st of June 2025 about a solar farm being installed at Leicestershire Police's HQ. And it quotes the Police and Crime Commissioner saying that the force had a duty to work towards net zero carbon emissions. I just thought that might be helpful in your point, Chair.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. Clearly, I must have made a mistake when talking to the journalist on the 21st of June. I do not believe that the police force, nor the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, nor in fact any of the councils here, do have an obligatory requirement to go towards net zero. As regards the solar farm featured there, it was introduced specifically to provide power to the core management room, which does take up a huge amount of electric power, as I'm sure you can imagine. And it is very cost effective. So whether you're looking at it from the point of view of carbon emissions or you're looking at it from the point of view of not wasting taxpayers' money, it's delivering.
Okay, thank you. Liz.
Thank you, Chair. Your police and crime plan says, I want Leicestershire, Leicester, Rutland to be a place where women and girls feel safe. Incidents of stalking and harassment will be dealt with quickly and effectively, and that you will continue to work with the partnership to ensure that we're all prepared to stamp out violence against women and girls. And just for clarity, it's written as VORG in there, but we understand that means violence against women and girls. The party of which you're now a member is consistently criticised for actually having no clear policy on tackling these crimes. Can you provide assurances that you will continue to make this a priority?
Certainly can, Chair. It's in the plan. And as I've said, I think several times so far today, that is the plan. That is the plan that will be implemented. So if it says it in the plan, then it says it, and that's what's going to happen.
Thank you, Chair. Furthermore, it says you will see more confidence in women and girls coming forward to report crimes against them. Your party leader was seen putting his arm around the accused rapist and sex trafficker Andrew Tate, and you called him an important voice for, your leader called him an important voice for men. How does that increase confidence in women and girls?
Well, as I've already said, Chair, I'm not responsible for everything that every member of Reform UK says any more than councillors around this table are responsible for everything that other members of their party say, or indeed what the party leaders say. I can bring it back to the fact that I am the Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. That is the plan, and that's what's going to happen, and it's the job of this panel to scrutinise what I do. So I can suggest to the council perhaps that if at any point she has doubts as to the way in which the plan is being implemented, or the way in which victim support is taking place, or the way in which these crimes are being pursued, there are plenty of future opportunities on this panel to scrutinise how it's happening. But as I said, noise is off and noise is off. It's irrelevant to how my office or the police force or myself are implementing the plan.
Just 1 second, please. Did you want to come back on that, Ellie? Liz? Right. So I think what I would comment, Mr. Matthews, before we hand over to Councillor Kilkelvin, is you put out a very public statement that you're going to help Nigel Farage develop policies. That was a very public statement. I think it was at your effecting statement inaugural meeting. I think querying, it's up to members of the public about trust and respect here. You're aligning with the person and the party who perhaps don't align with what's in your plan. So, Councillor Kilkelvin.
Thank you, Chair. The question that I was going to ask relates to this, because it's about leadership and the tone that leaders set. I will say I'm a little bit uncomfortable with you completely disassociating yourself from the behaviour of other people in your now new political party. I don't think that is how the public view either political parties or individuals who hold office. I think they do see you as part of a wider movement where the leader has put his arm round Andrew Tate. And I think, particularly in your role of sort of engendering confidence for violence against women and girls, I think that you disassociating yourself is just a fallacy. It's something you're doing, but the public won't be doing that. My question came back to sort of leadership and tone. I think we all know as leaders, which you are in this organisation, we do set the tone that goes throughout the whole of our organisation, and we are expected to sort of model the behaviour that we want to see from both staff and others. And I was just looking at the association of PCC, and actually the top job, you know, it sort of tells you what the job roles are. The top one is about community needs and relationships. Ensuring community needs are met by effectively improving local relationships by building confidence and restoring trust. And that was the top one. So I'm presuming they weight that quite heavily as part of your job. I have to say I've been really impressed so far, Rupert, with the work that you've done in terms of working with communities. You've been out there, you've been speaking to communities, and you know, you've been listening. I suppose what concerns me now is standing for reform. You're standing, and comments that you made in the papers actually. You talk about an apocalyptic wasteland of lawlessness, and I think the banner, the sort of the strap line for reform around policing is Britain is lawless. And I'm wondering how that can comfortably sit next to one of your key jobs and roles and responsibilities, which is to build confidence and restore trust. I can't say how, when you're saying Britain is lawless, I mean, if you had a conversation with you, I'm sure you can articulate it. But if you're the average person on the street, you're not going to have an opportunity to speak to you and let you articulate it. So reading that within its first sort of, what is that telling me? Britain is lawless. You're saying either the police are failing, or you're saying I'm failing because I'm not because the police are failing, or you're suggesting the electorate are thugs. And I'm just wondering at what point you think standing in front of the hashtag or whatever it might be, Britain is lawless, that is going to enable you to engender that confidence and trust. And just a supplementary to that is, did you think about the implications this might have on staff morale? Given what I just said, is there's lots of different ways you can interpret that Britain is lawless. One of them is that you believe the police aren't doing their job or aren't doing a good job. Did you consider how standing in front of that, being on that platform with that hashtag might affect the morale of the police officers within the team? And if you didn't, why not didn't you? And if you did, think about the impact that might have on both the staff and public confidence. If you could just talk us through that thought process.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Joe. There's a lot to unpack there. I'll do my best. First of all, I did not seek to disassociate myself completely. The point I was trying to make was that comments made by other members of the Reform UK Party did not impact on the Police and Crime Plan. They do not impact on the work that I do as Police and Crime Commissioner. I'll take your point that comments made by other members of a political party may colour members of the public's view. The same is true for every political party.
That's my point, is in fact actually that by implication then that party's actions and what they say does impact on the way you deliver your plan.
Mr. Matthews, please continue.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to the point about staff morale, it is not the job of a police and crime commissioner, or indeed of any elected politician, to blindly support and enthusiastically endorse the work done by those who work in the organisation to which they are elected. Just a few days ago, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley issued a very strongly worded statement pointing out that in his view, the Thames Valley Police had entirely misjudged the situation, and that he had summoned the Chief Constable to have a conversation about that. It is the job of a Police and Crime Commissioner to hold the Chief Constable to account. It is the job of a Police and Crime Commissioner to trumpet the successes. And I'm delighted to be able to take the opportunity to say that maybe only a small thing, but the police staff canteen just recently scored 15 points out of 15 in an unannounced inspection. And I have sent my congratulations to them through the Chief Constable already. But if there are problems, they do need to be sorted out. And it may sometimes be not that there is a problem, as clearly there was recently in Thames Valley. It may just be that there needs to be a shift in emphasis. I'm sure everyone here is aware that shoplifting has gone up a lot recently. That has resulted in my asking the Chief Constable how they're dealing with it, what the responses are. I've had a report from the Chief Constable. It's very good. A lot of very good work is now being done. And we are beginning to see shoplifting top off and come down slightly, not as much as we would all like. So it is not my job to solely say how marvellous everybody is. When they are marvellous, I say so. But if there are things that could be done better, if there are things that could be improved, that is my job as well, to make sure that improvements are made for the benefit of all the public. Ellie, quickly on this one, please.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree that you are there to challenge the police, but I still go back to the point that the top thing on the Association of PCC is ensuring community needs are met effectively, improving local relationships by building confidence and restoring trust. Now, if you look at that, that doesn't just go about building confidence and restoring trust in the public or the police, but it's also of the police in the policing system. And I can't see how by you saying that our towns and cities become an apocalyptic wasteland of lawlessness is helping anyone at all restore any trust or any confidence in the system.
Thank you, Ellie. I don't think there's a need to respond. Mr. Bray.
Yes, it's following up from Ellie's comments about your community work, and you know, I do pay tribute to you for going out and about in the community. I understand yesterday that you were at the excellent motor show organised by Hinckley Bid. A few weeks ago, Reform asked if they could have a stand at that event, and they were told no, because it wouldn't be appropriate as it was a non-political event. But they turned up anyway. They drove through the road closure order. The organisers asked them to leave, but they refused. Your new party spent the summer telling us that they were the party of law and order, the party of following the rules, the party of respect. So how is this setting an example? How is this following the rules? Road closure orders put in by this council, this reform-led council, are put in place for public safety. And how is it respectful to event organisers for them not to leave when asked?
Mr. Matthews.
I hope the panel will forgive me if I don't know the details of this individual incident. However, I have got a meeting with the chair of Hinckley Reform in about 3 weeks' time, so I'll raise it with them if that's all right. But sorry, I don't know the details of it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I think actually, because you've mentioned from Ellie's questions, you've mentioned the force in your relationship with them. You keep using the phrase Chief Constable. He is officially the temporary Chief Constable. So I am very curious as to why you've not started the recruitment process for the replacement Chief Constable. You've had more than adequate time. And did your decision to defect to a different political party have any bearing on the delay and the slowness? I would have thought it quite important for a very broad reaching police force to have stability and a clear chief constable who's appointed and permanent. So if you could respond, please, Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. No, it had no impact whatsoever on my decision. The reason why we have not gone out again, as you will be aware for a position of this importance, the recruitment process is hashed round with so many laws, guidance, recommendations and so on. It could fill a book. Throughout the recruitment process, we have acted, of course, on the guidance of the College of Policing. They were of the opinion that given the small numbers of officers who are eligible to apply for Chief Constable, it would be better to wait certainly until the autumn, possibly until after Christmas, before advertising it again. That's what we're doing.
Okay, you have your guidance. I'm not quite sure I understand the logic behind it. We need a permanent chief constable for a stable, driven, led police force. That's the fact. That's the same for any organisation. So yeah, weird one for me, Mr. Matthews. Okay, we move on. Councillor Butcher, I believe you're next.
Thank you. Can you provide assurances with regards to commitments relating to diversity in respect to Reform UK's position on the EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion? Because from where the residents I talk to and councillors, the Tories and Reform ideology on that is completely different.
Mr. Matthews?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. We've already heard councillors here pay tribute to the community work that I do. I suppose this isn't definitive, I suppose, but today is the first day of Navratri Festival. And this year I've received the same number of invitations as I received last year. So I know it's a straw in the wind rather than anything definitive. But my commitment to our differing communities is unwavering, as I'm sure you are aware. Yes, people do have different views on equality, diversity legislation and the ways in which it is implemented. I think that's a perfectly reasonable debate to be had. I think there's sometimes a confusion between the end you're trying to achieve and the tactics you're using to get there. It's perfectly reasonable to have a debate about the tactics that you use, and I'm sure I will. But that doesn't necessarily impact on the commitment to the end goal. I know that's not terribly vague, but it's a difficult one to grip.
And I think overriding it all, Mr. Matthews, is how society are interpreting all these different things, because you have aligned yourself with a party who front and centre don't agree with DEI. I think is there rather than EDI. It's EDI in my world, and I think it's EDI in most of our world. So it just seems, from a public perspective position, the two don't join together very well. Let's put it that way. So anyway, we move on. So, Councillor Butcher.
We can't get away from the fact of what we see. Facebook's a big thing, and what we see on there portrayed from a reform side of things is where this public perception comes in of how they see you, because you are now reform, and how they are going to be confident in what you're going to deliver.
Well, as we've already established, that will have an impact. I mean, if we stick to EDI or DEI, or however you want to put it, one of the complaints I have about the current legislation is it takes no account of social class. And I've seen through my lifetime the ways in which, I suppose saying the class system is doing it too much justice, but the way in which people in this country view class can have a huge impact in terms of how people are treated, their prospects in life and so on. And yet it is just invisible as far as the EDI or DEI legislation is concerned. And I think that is a real problem. And so, like I say, we should be able to have discussion about this without it being painted in really harsh colours. We should be able to debate it without it being a case of, oh, well, if you don't agree, you're just awful. That's not the case. I don't believe it should be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I think I'll really go back to my earlier comment about your public statement. Perhaps you can try educating Mr. Farage and the leadership of the Reform UK on what EDI actually is, because there clearly is a lot of misunderstanding about what EDI actually is. So, Mr. Dawood.
Thanks, Chair. Two related kind of questions and one further observation. The Assistant Police Chief, Merseyside Police Chief, on her retirement said that reforms promised to scrap equality policies are ludicrous. This is not party political, but operational level. So I would appreciate your view on that. And secondly, I think there's a quote from you that says that you would like to cut the dark heart of wokeness out, I think it is. And I'd like your opinion on what you mean by that. And thirdly, that you had said that the police have been fighting crime with one hand behind their back, but you've been responsible for a particular tenure. So why have you seen the light now compared to previously? Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Matthews, you can answer in part.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think if a police officer makes a comment about a political party, he cannot then pretend it is operational policing. That is a political statement, whatever it is. As regards my comment about the wokeness that needs to be done, that was in the specific instance of the Police Race Action Plan. I've been quite consistent since it was first inaugurated, soon after I came into office, in my opinion, that it is a bad plan. And the main reason for that, it is pitched as being the Police Race Action Plan that's going to be about how to improve relationships between the police and various ethnic groups within this country. And yet, that's not what it's doing. It is concentrating only on one ethnic group, the black population. And when I raised with the team working on the plan, what about police relations with the Muslim community? What about the police relations with the Hindu community, which causes, both of which are very important here? I was just dismissed with a wave of the hand and said, oh, well, the police can just treat the Muslim community the same way they treat the black community, which in my opinion is dreadful. So that is my problem with that plan, is that it is not taking a realistic view of police relationship with ethnic minorities. It's just concentrating on one particular aspect of it and not doing a very good job.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. So can I just ask you then to perhaps, do you want to go now, Mr. Howard?
Yeah. The comments were made by a very respectable retiring chief officer or chief inspector, and it's a view that I would say is valid, but I know what you're saying is a political statement, but I think it's a statement that we need to consider. But that, and secondly, you've still not explained the dark heart of wokeism being removed. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Your explanation is okay, but we could talk about politically about the definition of blackness, etc., etc., etc. But that's a subject for another day. But what I'm trying to understand is that your commitment, your statement about removing it, it's not clear to me.
So I think, Mr. Matthews, we are here to scrutinise how your change of political affiliation will impact on your police and crime plan. So I guess supporting Mr. Dawood, but in a slightly different way, is could you explain and put a bit more embellishment and icing on the cake as to how your police and crime plan is going to, or hasn't been, or will be, removing the dark heart of wokeness and the other sort of points that Mr. Dawood has raised. The comments from Chief Inspector elsewhere is not relevant to your plan. So concentrate, please, on how your comments about dark heart of wokeness and respecting the different ethnic cultures and identities within your plan, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, the plan is, of course, about Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, not just about the police here, but also all the other services that my office is responsible for, victim support, crime prevention, and what have you. I think probably my comments were more aimed at the national level, where I think there are perceived to be some real problems, and that a lot of government bodies, instead of concentrating on what they're supposed to do, are actually dealing with other matters that are extraneous to that, and that all the money allocated to law and order should be spent on law and order and not dealing with other matters. So it's, I suppose, strictly speaking, it's not relevant to the plan, because the plan's doing what the plan's doing here in Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. But of course, as an individual, I may have views on what's happening at a national level as well.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews, which I think goes back to my commentary about societal interpretation, societal perception, as Mr. Daywood has eloquently explained. Councillor Butcher.
Going back to my original question about equality, and you say you're not going to follow, like reform and make your own decisions. We had a gay pride in our town that reform secretary tried to stop. Everybody needs to know that you're going to assure that you're going to deal with everybody equally. And that did cause a lot of upset in our community.
Mr. Matthews, you are responsible for scrutinising the conduct and behaviour of the police force. That's a very interesting question, I believe, from Councillor Butcher. So I'll leave you to explain how you are going to ensure or scrutinise or oversee a fully inclusive police force, bearing in mind your new political allegiance.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I attended the Rutland Gay Pride Festival last year. I was working with the Hinckley organisation to see how they I think in the end it was abandoned because of bad weather, wasn't it? I know it was abandoned last year.
This year it happened. It happened in August.
But it was abandoned last year. So I myself, of course, treat everybody equally. Where there is a big public event such as the one you're talking about, of course, there are public safety issues, there are crowd control issues. Large crowds attract pickpockets and other criminals, so there is a law and order aspect to all these events, whatever the reason for them. And of course, as Police and Crime Commissioner, I'll be doing my job along those lines.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Lloydell, you had your hand up, and then you would be the next question. So I'll come back.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to everybody. Firstly, I just want to make a quick statement, because you keep talking about political statements is not allowed. It's got to be out of the plan. Could I just remind the panel, the post of the PCC is a political post. When somebody goes to the press, makes 7 statements, which are, each one of them could have an impact on the plan. Oh, sorry. Sorry, a bit closer, beg your pardon. That every one of those bullet points that I'm reading in front of me will have an impact on the Commissioner's plan. What I want to come to, of course, is we talk about equality and diversity, or the EDI, which is in here. Unfortunately, how does that sit with the fact that you say that the Association or National Police Council recently sponsored a particular document, which is this, the Police Race Action Plan, and you say or refer to it, and this could have an impact on your plan, you refer to it as 2-tier policing. Does the acting chief please know that this actually creates a 2-tier policing system for his force? And have you got any evidence that suggests we have 2-tier policing within our community?
Thank you. I've always been very clear that I think everyone should be treated the same by the police. and that there is no room for two-tier policing. The document to which the councillor is referring is a changing living document. There isn't a definitive version. There was the original document that came out. Since then, it's been morphing and changing and so on. I think one of the problems I have with it is there isn't a single definitive version that we know what we should be dealing with. Some of the comments in that I don't agree with. Some of the comments in it I do agree with. I find some of the aspects of it quite troubling in that they take undeniable facts of disproportionality of outcome, and then without really exploring why there is a disproportionality of outcome, try to impose a solution for them. And if you don't know what's causing something, it's very difficult to put it right. So I'm not sure that they're actually addressing the correct issues. And I do have a degree of problems with it, yes.
Mr. Lloyd? Yes, if I may. Of course, with it being in a public place and the terminology used that says it's a disgrace, it's the very epitome of a two-tier policing system. And I wrote to I was very concerned about that myself. And I wrote to them, to the Chief Constable, and if I may, I've got a copy here. I could read it out to what they say in relation to, because it does impact on the police plan. With your permission, I can read it out or let people have copies later. All right. And I think it's important because the Chief Constable Gavin Stevens, Chairman of the National Police Chiefs Council, said, quote, "The police race action plan is fundamentally about delivering better, more effective policing. It is also a plan that sits alongside a wide range of other national improvement activities. It is absolutely not about preferential treatment or certain groups of others. We have a clear commitment in proactively identify and understand racial disproportionality and reform our services to address disparities within and cannot explain the reasons behind them. It remains the fact that black communities have the lowest level of confidence in the police, are disproportionately likely to be reported missing to the police. If communities don't trust the police, it's important that is, they won't come forward, and when they need help or support with things like information to support our investigations, nearly finished, Chair, this then has implications on everybody, improving confidence in the police, benefits policing for everyone, and that is a driving force behind everything that we are trying to do." That's their reply to that document, which seems to be, it clarifies what that document is, but you've produced no evidence to suggest there is two-tier policing system within our community.
Mr. Matthews. Thank you, Chair. Well, the Chief Constable in question is well aware of the fact I disagree with him on this. And I think what we're dealing with here is two things. First of all, what is the aim? The aim is to improve trust and confidence of the police, specifically in this case amongst the black population, also across ethnic minorities more widely, and indeed the population as a whole. Where I disagree with the Chief Constable about the tactics that they are going about to do it. So it's not the aim. Of course, I agree with the aim. I think we all agree with the aim. It's whether the tactics themselves are likely to result in the correct outcome, and I don't think that they are. So, yeah, the Chief Constable knows I disagree with him on this. He thinks he's pursuing the correct path to achieve the aim. I think he is pursuing the incorrect path to achieve the aim, and I'm in correspondence with him, and no doubt that correspondence will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Travder.
So I guess, sorry, my question is more as the independent, obviously, member of the community. So I've heard from all the councillors around the room. A lot of things I'm hearing is inclusivity, community trust. What's your plan as the PCC, knowing that the public eye may have maybe lack of confidence, knowing you've joined the reform? What is your plan to assure them? And your part, the PCC office, what is the action plan you're going to do to build that confidence, to tell them you will continue with the PCC plan? You will not be influenced by the reform policies or, lack of policies or prejudice that we hear in the public eye?
Mr. Matthews.
Well, at the risk of repeating myself, Chair, we have a police and crime plan, which we will implement. I am the Police and Crime Commissioner. I will continue to go out into the community, just as I always have been, to meet members of all sorts of different communities. Like I say, this evening I'm going to an Avatary event. I was at the car show in Hinckley yesterday. On Friday, I was at the Belgrave Neighbourhood Housing Association AGM. And just as I attend meetings with all sorts of different groups and communities, be it National Farmers Union when I'm meeting the agricultural community, Chambers of Commerce and bids when I'm meeting the business community or whatever. That's what I've done ever since I got into office, and that is what I will continue to do. And I will reassure them by demonstrating I'm interested in what they have to say, by demonstrating I take their comments on board and try to get action taken accordingly. Of course, that's not always possible, but whenever I can, I do. I suppose the answer is by example.
Okay, happy, Mr. Jeffrey? Okay, Councillor Cook-Owen.
Thank you. I think mine follows on from the same point that in fact, actually, you know, some of the rhetoric used by Reform, particularly about things like immigration, is quite divisive, and that doesn't sit well next to the idea that you are building confidence and trust within a very diverse community. I just find them a bit at odds. And you know, as Councillor Lloydell just pointed out, you know, if people stop or fail to trust and they stop coming forward, and that actually then exacerbates the problem, because we rely on information from particular communities to be able to respond to issues. But what I heard from a different response there, you said you didn't like the plan, this plan, and you disagreed because whilst you liked the goal and the aim, you believed that the tactics were the wrong ones. And I'm just wondering what you can say about. I mean, I've got no issue on. You know, I do think as politicians we need to talk about some of the difficult issues, which does include immigration. But do you believe that the Reform Party tactics on how to achieve that is something you would agree with?
Your Chair, well, there are a lot of ifs in that question, which may not come to pass. Thank you, Chair. I understand Mr. Farage made an announcement this morning. I've been at work. I haven't had a chance to catch up with exactly what he said.
Okay, I think we'll leave it there. I think your point's made, Councillor Cook-Owen, so thank you for that. Just before we move on, I'm very conscious that we've been in quite an intense debate for an hour. Do members just want to grab a drink of water or a cup of tea before we carry on? Is that okay? Right, so if you just pause for a couple of minutes, please. Right, we'll reconvene as soon as possible, but 5 or 10 minutes max. Thank you. Right, thank you. We are live streaming. So, Mr. Matthews, we're moving on to a short number of questions to do with public confidence and transparency. So the first question I will hand over to Councillor Cook-Kelvin.
To be fair, Chair, I think I've asked this in various different ways already today, but I'll read it out and see whether there's anything more we can get from Mr. Matthews. How do you intend to maintain public trust and confidence following your change in political allegiance?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we have covered this ground. Same way I have been up until now. That is by getting out into the community, meeting people, listening to them, acting on what they want. What you should do when you're in public office is get out and meet the public. So I will continue to do that as I have since I was first elected.
What about those members of the public who might be concerned or not really wanting to meet a reform politician, given the divisive politics that I talked about earlier?
Thank you, Chair. I'm willing to go out and meet anyone. When I was a Conservative Party member, I went out and met members of the Labour Party. I met members of the Liberal Democrat Party. Now I've moved to Reform, I will continue to do the same thing. If members of the public do not wish to meet me, I cannot make them. But throughout my time, I've made myself available as much as I can and will continue to do so. I would ask the councillor to encourage everybody to write to me, to contact me, to invite me to events, to meet me, and then perhaps, hopefully, they might readjust their unfortunate opinion of the Reform Party by seeing it in reality.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. Mr. Bray.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Matthews. On this section of public confidence and transparency, it's been widely reported in the press that the former deputy leader here is under current police investigation for electoral malpractice. And at the time of your defection, there was quite a lot of social media posts of you and him. Now, as you will come across, as I do, there is an awful lot of misunderstanding in the role of a PCC, and that fact that it's not an operational role. So I'm giving you the chance, I think, to say in public now, to confirm that you've had no conversations and will not have any conversations with any serving police officers on this matter. And whilst people in this room know our police's professionality and everything else, I do wonder whether perhaps what your view might be about a different police force undertaking this particular investigation so that no public confidence can be undermined.
So can I just, for clarity, for members of the public who may be listening online, the matter that Mr. Bray has just raised, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's the Leicestershire Police that will be investigating. Okay, so the suggestion, a requirement or request from Mr. Bray is that an external police force investigates. Is that correct, Mr. Bray? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I happily give the assurance I have not spoken to any of the police officers who are investigating this case about the case. If the Chief Constable deems it necessary to speak to me about it, then that would be a decision for him. I don't think I would want to refuse to meet him on it if he thinks it is necessary to impart information to me. I have absolute confidence in the officers of the Leicestershire Police to investigate all crimes professionally, with integrity and impartially, and that applies to this one as much to any other. So no, I will not be making a request that this specific case should be referred to a different police force.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I believe, Christine, you had your hand up. Just Ben Settlers.
It's a slightly different but related question. You say your values haven't changed. The police and crime plan hasn't changed, but your reason for leaving the Conservative Party was an apparent lack of support. How can Reform support you in the execution of your police and crime plan, which is not aligned with their policies and values? You've said yourself that you have a day job and your own personal views. And if that's the case, why change allegiances if you're not going to align with them? And supplemental to that, you answered an earlier question and said that you hope the public might change their opinion of Reform through your behaviour. But you've just earlier repeated again and again and again that when you're in your PCC role, you won't be enacting their values and policies. So I'm finding this a little bit confusing.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. My earlier answer was specifically related to those members of the public that Councillor Kelvin has met, who apparently don't want to meet members of the Reform Party. I find that deeply disappointing, that anyone would refuse to meet a person because of their political views. I think that is disappointing. We need to have more open debate. We need to discuss things more. And that should lead to greater understanding between political parties, between individuals, between different groups within society. I think the idea of cutting people off, or cancel culture, I think it's called, I think it's appalling. And I would, again, if anyone doesn't want to meet members of Reform, I think that is the wrong attitude to take. And I'd be happy to meet any of them and seek to change their minds. So I wasn't talking about the public in general. It was specific to individuals that Councillor Kelvin has met who apparently do not wish to associate with members of Reform. I think that is deeply disappointing. And again, Chair, at the risk of repeating myself, the Police and Crime Plan is a foundational document. It's been approved by this panel. I will continue to implement it. I think if I were to come to this panel and say, I want to change the Police and Crime Plan, I think a lot of this, these conversations might have merit, but it's not changing. And I don't really follow how my change of political allegiance is changing a plan that is not changing. Like I say, if I were to come to this panel and say, do you know what, I think page 5 is rubbish, we're going to completely scrap page 5, we're going to have something else, fair go, but I'm not. The plan hasn't changed, I haven't changed, the work I'm doing hasn't changed, and so as far as that's concerned, my change of political allegiance has had no impact on the plan whatsoever.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthews. I have got you, but just 1 second. So we're in this agenda sheet here, the area of public confidence, transparency. I have mentioned numerous times trust and respect and perception by members of the public. So I'm just going to invite my vice chair to comment on something, and I think panel will be very interested in your statement, please, Mr. Matthews.
Mr. Matthews, you've repeatedly said that your change of party makes no difference to your plan. You also stated earlier that there are times when you're a police and crime commissioner and there are times that you're a private individual. I don't take issue with that particularly, except that on your personal social media on Twitter earlier this month, so let's just get it correct, you changed party in August. In the middle of September, you're saying about a picture of yourself taken in Rutland and saying that the Reform Party is tackling lawlessness in lawless Britain while other parties tout the Human Liberal Rights Brigade. Which is it, Mr. Matthews? Are you a private individual? Are you the PCC at that point? And how are you going back in time to reduce crime over the last year as a Reform member? Which is what you seem to.
And as a supplementary to that, Mr. Matthews, I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask you to explain what you are claiming that Reform UK are doing when they are not a political party in office or power. So could you explain it's X nowadays, not than Twitter, isn't it? So Mr. Matthews, it's a very clear question for you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm now confused because you say we're moving on to a different part of the agenda. You appear to have a different agenda to me. My agenda says we're on section 4, questions of police and crime. You appear to have an agenda that says we're moving on to a different section on trust and confidence.
Well, I'll clarify my mistake, Mr. Matthews. It's the questions in front of me. So we're moving on to a different set of questions, which is to do with public confidence and transparency.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I think it is usual among people in elected office to talk about the party to which they belong. There is talk about the Conservative Council is doing this, the Labour government is doing that. I think I was just doing the same thing, to be honest. You're saying what political party you belong to, what you've achieved, and linking the two together. I don't understand why this is a problem. I think everyone does it.
Well, I certainly don't. Just bear me a second, Gurley. I think Councillor Butcher was first.
It was going back to before you had this conversation. It was Mr. Matthews' answer is I don't think it matters if they think it's about you or reform. It's the public confidence to make them come to you, and it's not about you getting them to see differently. It's about you seeing differently about people's opinions of why they might not come to you because you want our reform.
Okay. Councillor Kirkkelvin, then Mr. Lloyd.
Yeah, just very quickly, I think one of my points was similar to that. I didn't say that I'd met with members of the public who refused to meet you. It says that members of the public might be a little less inclined to come and meet you because of the divisive politics of reform. Now, just very quickly on this X thing, I don't do X at all, but how exactly did reform help reduce the crime in Rutland, I think is my question.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Chair. I apologise if I misunderstood what the councillor was saying earlier. Well, as I am the Police and Crime Commissioner. I am a member of Reform, and therefore, I suppose loosely in terms of a very short post on X where you're very limited by your characters, it's difficult to get into all the nuances and subtleties. But as I say, your party talks about the Labour government is doing X, Y and Z. I'm sure the Blaby Council is sometimes reported in the press as being the Conservative Blaby Council is doing something or another. It's political shorthand for I belong to this party, this is what I'm doing. I really can't see the problem here.
I think part of the problem is that you're claiming victory for something that you did when you were actually in the Tories. So if anyone should be getting the credit for reducing crime in Rutland, it should be the Tory party. I have a slightly different view to Liz about this public and personal office. All I ask is that you are very clear going forward. I have taken issue with you before when you have put political messaging on your personal. I don't believe you ever get away from civic life. I think if you were an elected official, whether you were writing on your personal account or whether you are writing on the police crime panels, the Police Crime Commissioner's account, you're always representing that office whilst you hold that office. But can I just ask you to choose which one? Because actually there is a really clear, Liz has picked out a really clear example where it's not very clear whether you're posting as an individual or posting as the Police Crime Commissioner. And I think that clarity would really help us all.
Thank you, Ellie.
I'll do my best, Chair. The account to which you're both referring is my personal account. There is, of course, also the official PCC account on social media, which is run by members of staff at the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, which reports on work that I do, on work that my deputy does, on actions that members of staff are taking, but does not comment on my personal life at all or on my personal views. My social media, on the other hand, is about me. And some of that will be what I do for a living, as a lot of people post about what their jobs are or what their hobbies are, but also includes a lot of personal information about me as well. So I'm sorry if well, I don't know how I can make it clearer. The heading on the social media account says it's my personal account and not the official one of the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner. I really don't know how I can make that clearer, Chair, but I think we'll have to agree to disagree.
That's fair enough, Mr. Matthews. Just before I hand over to Mr. Daywood, my concern, Mr. Matthews, is you are our PCC. You have a very senior civic position. It is always difficult as an elected representative to separate out our political world and our personal world. I'm extremely cautious with my social media accounts. But that one, whether it was you as Rupert Matthews or you as the PCC, was claiming that Reform UK are tackling crime in Rutland, which is not correct. It isn't. It's the police force at the very best. Okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the police who tackle crime and disorder, not, it's not Reform UK. Anyway, Mr. Matthews, this is all about people's perception. Councillor David.
Thanks, Chair. I'm still also confused about in terms of your individual, private and public, etc. Because I'm looking at your website, as in the Police Crime Commissioner. It says PVC Rupert Matthews has moved to Reform UK, and I'm just wondering the relevance, because if there's a change in direction, why would you put it on a public website?
Thank you, Joe. I do not run that website. It's run by my staff. That is a statement of fact. It is a statement of fact which has been in the local press. I think I'd have said it was a reasonable thing to put on the website. If you think it is an unreasonable thing to put on the website, I can only suggest that you write to my office and then we will consider it. I don't think it's unreasonable to say that, but that is the official website, not my personal social media. So I don't run it.
I will not be writing to your office. I'm just wondering, because I'm not sure in the past where other politicians, public figures have said we've now moved over to another political party on a public website, which is the Police and Crime Commissioner's website, to say I've now moved to Reform, and it's statements from you again and again. So it's just something, I just need a rationale behind it. But if you feel as though it's something that can be done by politicians, that's fine. But in terms of neutrality and kind of independence, I would have thought that you would not be putting those statements there as PC. Rupert Matthews has moved to Reform UK. I mean, I wouldn't do that as a Labour councillor. I have now moved on the Leicester City Council website to say I've now moved to the Conservative Party or to Reform.
Okay, if I may, Mr. Matthews, I think it's not for this panel to query that one. My query would be the use of public money to fund that website. But if it used to say the Conservative Police and Crime Commissioner, then if somebody wishes to write to the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, that is up to them. Are there any more questions on this particular bit? Otherwise, it is Mr. Woodman.
Thank you, Chair. How will you be transparent with the public about any changes in policy or funding priorities resulting from your change in political allegiance?
Well, if there are any changes, by telling people. I'm not anticipating that there will be any changes as a result of my change of political allegiance. The plan stays the same. My values stay the same. We've already covered this ground. I mean, if there are any, I'll say so. I'm not expecting there to be any.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Matthews, but if you do wish to change your plan or changing your funding commitments, it would come before the panel anyway. Okay, thank you. So it is open to public scrutiny. So, okay, thank you. We're now moving on, Mr. Matthews, to governance and ethical considerations. And again, we may have covered some of this ground previously. DH. Mr. Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I think we have. When you think, how will you ensure your decisions continue to reflect the needs of all communities, regardless of political affiliations? I think I've read it out, but I think you've exhausted that one probably.
I always have, Chair. I'm not going to change that.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Matthews, you'll be probably quite delighted to know that we are getting towards the end. So, Liz, you have the next question.
Thank you, Chair. Do you foresee any changes on how you engage with the panel or respond to its recommendations? And if you do, can you outline some, please?
Think of any. No, can't think of any.
Right. For those who have the name in front of them, I'm going to skip the next two questions. Okay. So the final question is actually for Mr. Woodman.
Good.
There we go then. Any final supplementary questions for Mr. Matthews, who has been in an hour and a half fairly significant scrutiny? Any further questions at all? Right, thank you, Mr. Matthews, for your time. Thank you, panel, for your questions. Mr. Matthews, we would kindly ask you to leave the room, and we will. Well, you'll get the minutes anyway, I imagine. So thank you for your time, Mr. Matthews.
No, can I thank the panel for undertaking their scrutiny role so effectively? I will just query though, Chair, do I need to leave the room or do I need to just go over to the public gallery? Hold on.
It is a public meeting, Mr. Matthews. If you wish to stay in the room, it is entirely up to you.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, members of the panel, you have a choice. We can have a quick break. I don't think the next session will last more than 10 minutes max. So we just carry on. Everybody happy to carry on? Happy? Carry on? Yeah, just bring a couple of people to the front. Welcome. So we have Charlie as the Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner and Claire as the Chief Executive of the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner. We are no intention whatsoever to cause either of you any difficulties or any embarrassment. We are just curious as a panel how Mr. Matthews' change of political allegiance may impact on you as the Chief Executive in the delivery of the plan from your perspective, and for Charlie as Deputy Police and Crime Commissioner as your view on how it may or may not impact on the delivery of the Police and Crime Commissioner's plan. So any volunteers to go first? Charlie? Oh.
I think I've been nominated, so sorry. I'm just gonna repeat the question back to you just so I can be sure I'm answering the right one. So the question is whether the Commissioner's change of political party has caused any difference for us in the office in terms of delivering that plan. So yeah.
That is spot on. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. So I would say no in the short term. I have an incredibly professional team that are committed to delivering a police and crime plan that they themselves were involved in the creation of. That police and crime plan, as the panel knows, went through a really robust formation process that included engagement not only with the public across Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland, but also the force and partners. That plan came before the panel for comment and was endorsed. And my team are absolutely dedicated to delivering that plan. They have received reassurances from Mr. Matthews that the plan is not going to change and that we are carrying on as we were before his change of political party, and that's what we'll do.
Thank you, Claire. Very eloquent and very informative. And Charlie, same question to you, really.
Yeah, so I think one of my first questions after learning about the defection was quite rightly, and because I was concerned that the police and crime plan would change, but it was we had a team meeting and there was a kind of reassurance within our office that there wouldn't be any changes to the police and crime plan. My commitment is to victims of crime, so my two portfolios that I have are the criminal justice system. I chair the Criminal Justice Board, and the other is victims and witnesses. So my portfolios are by their nature non-political in any event. So all I want to do is improve our criminal justice system and get the best service for victims of crime. So that's my priority. The police and crime plan isn't changing. I feel able to stay and achieve those goals for the people of Leicestershire, Leicester and Rutland. And I really do hope that there are no changes, and we've had that reassurance. So on that basis, I feel able to continue to deliver on that.
Lovely, thank you, Charlie. Is there any questions from members, or are we just happy for the to members to leave their statements and Mr. Woodman.
Just out of interest, Charlie, when did you actually first learn of the defection?
Well,
May I interject? Charlie, you don't need to answer that question.
okay.
I don't think it's not relevant to the police and crime plan.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr.
Thank
Woodman.
you.
Okay, if no further question, Mr. Lloyd.
Yeah, sorry, maybe a question for the official police and crime committee, but I was impressed with the fact that you chair the Criminal Justice Board, is it? And when we did the interviews, you were quite vocal on that point and things that needed to change. And of course, unfortunately, when you read things like the criminal justice system and allowed the police and the courts to get back to what they're supposed to do, because it's broke and the wokeness in there is affecting the plan. You're not part of the wokeness if you're a chair of that board, are you?
That's not Mr. Lloyd. No, I'm not going to allow that question. Or indeed, I'm going to ask Charlie not to answer the question. One of the two. That's not for this meeting. This was particularly a scrutiny of the Police and Crime Commissioner's political choice. So thank you both very much. Told you we weren't here to embarrass you, but thank you very much for your time and your honest, forthright answers. So if everybody else is content, lovely. Thank you very much. I don't think there's any need to have a sort of post-meeting conflab on this. I think it's been an extremely interesting and informative scrutiny session. All questions have been answered, not necessarily to everybody's satisfaction. But we move on to agenda item 5, which is the date of the next meeting, which is scheduled to take place on the 27th of October 2025. Agenda item 6 is any other items which the chairman has decided to take as urgent. There are no urgent items, so that brings us the meeting to a close. So safe travels home, everybody, and we should just get away before work traffic. So thank you for your time and safe travels back.